away from that book. Really, really, really bad. Okay. Abe, if you are doing the PPT, you don't need to go there. They have not attended this, so that book. Okay. So you stay away from Punandal Deya is a problematic book, has a lot of details which are incorrect. Okay. Now, the first and foremost point is that we have to understand, we've reached yesterday with regards to Indian nationalism, Gandhi coming back to India. We understood his three interventions, Champaran, Kheda and Ahmedabad. We tried to understand why was his South African experience so important. And now that we have an understanding of his South African experience, why Gandhi is Gandhi, we need to go into his first major mass movement or mass moment, which is called the Rowlatt Act. But in order to understand Rowlatt Act, you need to understand something more closer to it, or just what happened after Rowlatt Act, or I want to do the constitutional part first, which is Montagu-Chelmsford reforms. So the year 1919 generally is considered a very important year because two things will happen in the same year. First, there are three things: Rowlatt, Jallianwala Bagh, and also we have the concept of Montagu-Chelmsford reforms by the end of that year. But Montagu-Chelmsford reforms, as called Government of India Act 1919, and one of our second last acts itself, after this it is going to become Government of India Act 1935. That is the last constitutional major moment in Indian history. We've mostly done 80% of it. Today, 10% again we cover more. But the most important point here is the most important concept, which is how was Morley and Minto different from Montagu-Chelmsford? And Montagu-Chelmsford in a way introduced a lot of features which are part of democracy in India today also. So when we talk about Montagu-Chelmsford, it has to be seen as a very important change in the British attitude and a drama in India also. So everybody's here. Can we start our discussion? Because I have to start with Morley Minto first. Great. So we are covering something which happens after Rowlatt. However, we are doing it first so that there's continuity when I talk about Rowlatt and Khilafat and non-cooperation. So I'm keeping one sector aside, one sector aside. Okay. Timeline, Yashika, once Montagu-Chelmsford is done. Because Montagu-Chelmsford is actually quite forward in this timeline, but I have to give you a timeline for sure. Okay. Now, when Morley-Minto reforms came through, Morley-Minto, 1909, when Morley was asked, Morley being the Secretary of State, when he was asked that what is the ultimate purpose of the British in India, his answer was not something like we want to give representative government or we are here for the Providence mission, we are here to do good, this and that. His basic answer was we will govern India as we have to. So he used a very interesting word, we will govern India as we have to. But the most important concept when asked, again Morley was asked, that the Indians are asking for Swaraj, and Swaraj, which is self-rule. What is your conception of Swaraj? So he very straightforward said one thing, and very, very categorically. He said that Swaraj for us is equal to sedition. That basically, if anybody is asking for Swaraj, he is acting against the state. And Swaraj is equal to sedition. Therefore, anybody who is asking, or any nationalist who is going for self-rule, he is going to be prosecuted under the Sedition Act. And this is technically an act and treason against the government of India. And we don't equate it anything less. So Swaraj is equal to sedition was the understanding of Morley. That if you are asking for self-rule, it is equal to sedition. However, when it comes to the 1919 Act, in 1917, there was a very important declaration. And that declaration was by Secretary of State, the successor of Morley. His name is Montagu. These two spellings you will see online and generally in books. One is written like this, one is written like this, Montagu. Both are correct. Montagu, whatever you want to call it. And it's called the Montagu Declaration. It's called the Montagu Declaration. And just to give you context, it's called Montagu Chelmsford because the viceroy was Chelmsford. In the last class, I will give you a whole PDF of all viceroys plus whatever, technically Governor of Bengal, Governor General of India, and viceroys. Whole list I will give you for your reference with whatever happened under their rule. But if you remember, we started with Lord Canning. In between, we deferred to Lord Dufferin also. We referred to Morley Minto. We referred to Curzon. And today, when we come into our discussion, there are two people who are in focus. Harding is the one on which the bomb was thrown. Two people are in our context, Chelmsford and Reading. So, when the name Montagu Chelmsford comes from Chelmsford, who's technically the viceroy. You don't have to learn this as it is. Obviously, the dates are not important, but what anybody who's trying to find a certain sector, a certain concept itself, this is the basic point, which is that Montagu is the Secretary of State and Chelmsford is the viceroy. So the name comes from here. Just for your reference, don't have to learn it. All important viceroys are going to be covered automatically when it will come to Irwin and all. But Curzon, Irwin, Minto, and Harding we've already talked about. Today we'll talk about Chelmsford, though he's not very important to our story. So Montagu, in his declaration in 1917, said a very important line, and this is the major shift in British understanding. And the thing which he says is very simply, he was asked what is the ultimate purpose of the British in India. And see, in between these two events, the First World War has started, and the attitude of the British has changed a little bit because in the war effort, India had helped quite a lot. So the whole Punjab regiment, 1,000 after 1,000 Punjabi, what we call as youth, went to fight in the First World War, forcefully or not voluntarily, basically. But Montagu will say a very important line. Montagu will say that the ultimate purpose, and you see, the ultimate purpose of British in India, and now see the words, is representative government, which is that we will give them some form of government which is representative to them. And he said that sedition and Swaraj are not same. Sedition and Swaraj are not same. He said basically our purpose is also in a way giving self-rule to the Indians within the empire. Within the empire. Now, this is the basic point. You can see how Morley's understanding and Montagu's understanding is quite different. That basically, Morley says Swaraj equals to sedition. Montagu says our ultimate purpose is basically to give representative government. And this is a major moment when the British, for the first time, very explicitly said what is their purpose in India, and though in positive terms. So I hope you understand this shift between the concept of Morley and Montagu. The basic point being that they have now tried to, in a way, give some form of concession. But in the larger scheme of things, the Indian National Congress, it's called the August Declaration. The Indian National Congress asked, okay, you want to give us self-rule. When and how? You want to give us self-rule? Give us self-rule. Tell us when. And in what form you will give it to us. To that, Montagu had no answer. Montagu had no answer. Morley was very clear, we are here to rule. Montagu gives this big funda that we are not here to rule, we are here to give representative government, and all of this is linked to the larger concept of what is called in British politics carrot and stick policy. Carrot and stick policy, which is that if there's a mule, you dangle a carrot in front of it so that it looks at the carrot and keeps on walking. But when it gets distracted, you use the stick to discipline it. And in our story, the August Declaration, or as it is called Montagu's Declaration, is seen as the carrot. That because in 1917 the war was still not over, the British needed Indian support, basically for food grains, for money, from personnel. So they give this big funda that we will give you representative government. We also want Swaraj. We also want Swaraj. The concept of concession and followed by repression. This is the concept of carrot and stick, that you give concession and then you follow it with repression. And you will see that the Montagu Declaration will be followed up with the biggest and the worst form of repression, which we call as the Rowlatt Act. So basically, the carrot was Montagu's declaration and the stick is going to be the Rowlatt Act. Simple point here is that don't think that the British have changed their attitude. The British are only changing their outward projection by just arguing between Morley and Montagu that we want the Indians to support in the war effort, and there is a new type of dynamism which they introduce via the Montagu Declaration, the August Declaration. Now, basically, as I said, it's part of the larger concept of carrot and stick, because this is the concession which they were ready to say. However, the repression was coming soon. So, are we clear about what is Montagu's basic agenda here? What is the politics here? It's not innocent politics that the British heart has changed. It's just that they want the Indians to be part of the larger movement, the larger First World War, and help the British in a voluntary way at least. Clear, everyone? Because then I will go to the act itself. Come on. This is clear. Perfect. So Edwin Montagu's declaration in 1917, also called August Declaration. And in this, he said a very important line. The line was that the government policy was an increasing participation of Indians in every branch of administration and gradual development of institutions with a view to progressive realization of responsible government in India as an integral part of the British Empire. From now onwards, the demand of nationalists for self-rule and self-government, home rule, will be not termed as sedition, since attainment of the self-government for India or Indians now became government policy. This was totally in contrary to Morley's statement in 1909, where the intention was not self-government itself. And you see how he has very well framed it. That, okay, you want Swaraj, we also want Swaraj. We have been on the wrong page. There has been a misunderstanding between you and me. We both want the same thing. We both want the same thing, which is we both want self-government. So sedition is not equal to Swaraj, or Swaraj is not equal to sedition. This is all based on a drama to get the Indians to come on board into the war effort itself. But the INC was very clear. INC was, if you want, give it to us. You want to give us self-rule. You tell us when will you give it and in what form you will give it. INC's straightforward understanding was, and as it is, this will be followed up by the The Jallianwala Bagh had already happened by the time this act is going to actually come through. This is going to basically be followed up by the act in 1919. The act was meaningless because people were in shock, but the basic point of the matter is in 1917 itself the INC says very simply, tell us. To that question, the British have no answer. So this August Declaration or Montagu's Declaration is seen as a turning point. So if you look at the larger psyche of rule, the British had never explicitly used the word responsible government. Responsible government means Indian government. Indian government anywhere else. And this term is going to become very important as we go on. So you understand the purpose, you understand the concept, and you understand the problems of Montagu's Declaration. If that is clear, then we go into Montagu-Chelmsford Act. It is a complex act, a very interesting act in that sense. The objections with Montagu's statement was twofold. No specific time frame, and the government alone decides the nature, timing of the advance towards responsible government. Indians were resentful and would technically not like the British to give us self-rule because their conception of self-rule is totally different. So, as the British government needed India's help in both resources and manpower in the First World War, this was seen as just a big drama of the government. Now, I have to discuss with you something extremely important, which is Montagu-Chelmsford. Can we do this? Everybody understands the purpose. If you are late, you understand this. This is just a declaration. It's just to get Indian support. That is it. Okay. Now, Government of India Act 1919, Montagu-Chelmsford reforms. So let's refresh our memory. As of 1918, what is the structure of the Government of India? The structure of the Government of India, and including England, is that you have the Secretary of State. He has his 15 members. He operates in India via the Governor General and Viceroy. The Governor General and Viceroy has his own Legislative Council. And Executive Council. Okay. Now, at the provincial level, he operates via Bengal, Madras, Bombay, Punjab, Northwestern Frontier or Northwestern Province, Northwestern Frontier, I'll not say province, Northwestern Province, and Oudh. Right? And he has these governors here, and each of them have their own provincial legislative councils. This is the structure, more or less. Yes? Yes, very good. So, we've now refreshed our memory. Portfolio system here. One man has already entered this Executive Council. Legislative Council has now separate electorates. And everywhere here, there is separate electorate itself. And the concept is there. We don't have to go into separate electorates as of right now. There are major provincial legislative councils are the legislative councils under the governors. Now, before I go to 1919, I need to discuss something with you. In India, there's something called the union list, the state list, and the concurrent list. Yes? Union, concurrent, state. Yes. What is this concept of lists? What is the word which is used? Yes, Schedule 7. What is this word which is used? What is this? What is the exact word for this division? Very good, Sahil. This is technically the division of not of power. It's called division of jurisdiction. It's a legislative jurisdiction which has been separated. It is technically separation of legislative jurisdiction. What I want you to understand is this word legislative jurisdiction. Legislative jurisdiction means that basically in India, there are certain things on which only the state can make laws. There are certain things on which the union can make laws, and there are certain things which on both they can make. This is the concept that laws can be made only by the state on certain things, only by the union on certain things, and both by the state and union. Union will prevail either way, right? This is the concept of legislative jurisdiction, that you're dividing legislative jurisdiction. Now, I'll give you an example of legislative jurisdiction. For example, defense, finance, you have agriculture, law and order, you have education, health. These are legislative subjects. These are called subjects. These are called subjects. So, for example, defense will go into which? Defense will go into which? Same person, Shalu, yes. The union. This goes into the union. This goes into state, etc., etc. This goes into state. The basic point is their jurisdiction is specified. Their jurisdiction is specified. So, do we understand the concept of legislative jurisdiction? That basically there is a division of subjects. There is division of subjects. Now, this concept of legislative jurisdiction is actually introduced through the Montagu-Chelmsford reforms. So, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to discuss first the structural changes, and then I'm going to discuss with you the concept of legislative jurisdiction and the concept of diarchy. Because a lot of students think diarchy is the concept of diarchy. I'll tell you, diarchy is a structural. No, it's a jurisdictional concept. So, first, what I do with you is the concept of structural changes. And once I've done structural changes with you, then I will go into the concept of diarchy. I will discuss what is diarchy. But I'm telling you that if you are going to look for diarchy in this slide, you will not find it. Because it is a conceptual change in the British government, because it is based on legislative jurisdiction. And structural changes are separate to this concept. Are you understanding this point? That structural changes means how the structure of the government of India changed, whilst there will be also a conceptual change with regards to how government of India functioned. That is a functionary change. This is a structural change. Okay, so let's discuss how things start to change. And it does a lot of major changes in India. First is that the will get shot in his leg and he will lie in this Bagh that day. The official estimate of the British was that 600 people died, 1500 people had been wounded. The Congress committee report says that 2000 were injured, 1000 were dead. But all of this is conservative estimate, because what is believed is that there were close to 10,000 people there in this Bagh. We just know one thing, 1650 rounds fired, but the most conservative estimate is that 3,000 people were killed and close to 4,000 people were injured in this massacre called the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Dyer will simply then ask his regiment to board on the trucks he came in, and he will leave this area. And now Jallianwala Bagh was the example set by the British and their revenge for 10th April of the Amritsar violence. On the street on which Marcella Sherwood had been beaten up, Indians will be asked to crawl, Punjabis will be asked to crawl on their belly so as to show that they were sorry about that. Punjab, which had contributed the most to the British in the First World War, also saw the worst of the British imperialism and colonialism in the Jallianwala Bagh incident. This incident single-handedly is called the darkest moment in Indian history. The British had finally showed their true colors of what they were. Rabindranath Tagore will give up his title. Gandhi will give up his Kaisar-e-Hind title he had received in South Africa. And the basic point is the violence which Gandhi saw at Jallianwala Bagh was too much for Gandhi to understand anything forward, and that is why on 18th April he will withdraw the Rowlatt Satyagraha itself. But Gandhi learned one thing very, very clearly, that the only way to get independence was non-violence, because if the British could do one Jallianwala Bagh, they could do multiple. Is the story of Jallianwala Bagh clear? If it is, then I'll talk to you about what happened thereafter, and then we see the PPT. Yes? Now, what happens after this is that the Hunter Commission will be established. Dyer will be removed from his position. However, he will be asked to resign. He will not be asked, he will technically not be court-martialed. He will be tried in front of the court. Hunter Commission actually has two reports in it. There were 3 Indian members in that commission. One is called the majority report, 7 people, and 3 Indian minority report. While the majority report did not even condemn Dyer and said that Dyer acted in the line of duty, though it is very well quoted in the minority report that everything, martial law transfer to the curfew, all were done illegally, and the curfew was not in effect when Jallianwala Bagh happened, and Dyer did it later as a face-saving measure. Still, the British Parliament, a lot of people sympathized with Dyer because he had lost his job. The Morning Post, the newspaper in Britain, is going to then start a campaign to give some financial help to Dyer, who had lost his job, and 20,000 pounds will be actually collected in the name of Dyer, in which even Rudyard Kipling had contributed to. Dyer will be removed. However, he will never be condemned. The British will never accept that what they had done was one of the most barbarous activities in the world. And thereafter, the Indian National Congress will also form its committee to cross-check what the Hunter Commission had done. But what they did was just inflate the data. The two Hunter Commissions. This is called the Hunter Committee, that is Hunter Commission. The Congress committee will say that the numbers are not totally there. Numbers are not totally there. And the basic point of the matter is that the Hunter Commission will fully remove all responsibility of Dyer or even O'Dwyer. Unfortunately, we did not get a chance to kill Dyer. Dyer will later die a natural death through disease. But in 1940, finally, Udham Singh, who was there, present there in the Jallianwala Bagh, will go to London and shoot O'Dwyer as a form of revenge for what had happened. Basically, the lieutenant governor was shot. Dyer had already died. The Rowlatt Satyagraha, in the larger context of Indian history that ways, was actually a moment in which two things came out very clearly. The Indian people were ready for nationalism but were not ready to do it under non-violence. Basically, Gandhi saw that the people were not ready. And second is that Jallianwala Bagh proved one thing for sure, as they're called Punjab wrongs, that the British did not care how they got revenge or how they held on to Indian rule. And this is the pretext for what is going to follow, which is the non-cooperation movement. Are we all clear with regards to the basic concept, the story, Jallianwala Bagh, and the illegality of everything which has happened till this point? Okay. So, in Punjab, I'm just consolidating everything through the slide and then we move to non-cooperation. In Punjab, the situation became very explosive due to wartime repression, forcible recruitment, ravages of disease. So the army was called, which put martial law there. Technically not, but that is what basic British documents would say. The Lieutenant Governor of Punjab, Michael O'Dwyer, is said to have even used air strafing, as I said, shooting from the air against violent protests. Amritsar was the worst affected by violence, and in the beginning there was no violence by the protesters, but Indians shut down their shops and normal trade and everything. Streets became fully empty to show displeasure to the British itself. However, when on 9th April, two nationalist leaders, Saifuddin Kichlew and Dr. Satyapal, were arrested by the British officers without any provocation except they were addressing a meeting under the Rowlatt Act itself. This caused resentment amongst the Indian protesters, and thousands will come on the roads on April of 10th in solidarity of their leader. And soon this protest will turn extremely violent, and many protesters will be killed and a lot of Europeans will be killed. Tensions ran high. In the riots that followed, 5 Englishmen were reported to have been killed, and Marcella Sherwood, an English missionary, going to the church itself, had been beaten up whilst going on a bicycle. Now, as I said, the British wanted revenge. Troops were sent to quell the disturbances. Dyer was the senior British officer who had been given the responsibility to impose martial law and restore order. Again, no formal transfer of power. By then, the city had already become calm and peaceful. However, Dyer issued a proclamation on 13th, which was Baisakhi, forbidding people from leaving the city without a pass and from organizing demonstrations, processions, assemblies of the people more than 3. This is technically considered curfew. However, curfew again was not applied. Then, on Baisakhi Day, a large crowd of people, mostly from neighboring villages, unaware of prohibitory orders in the city, gathered in the Jallianwala Bagh, a popular place for public events. Local leaders had also organized a small protest in the venue in the side. It is not clear how many, but close to 20,000 odd people, that is the most conservative estimate, had collected there for political protests, but the majority of the people were there for the festival. Meanwhile, the meeting had gone peaceful and 2 resolutions has been passed, calling for the repealment of Rowlatt Act and condemning the firing on 10th April itself. However, Dyer will arrive with his men on the scene. The troops surrounded the gathering under the order of Dyer and blocked every exit point and now opened fire on an unarmed crowd itself. No warning was issued, no instruction to disperse was given. An unarmed gathering of men, women, children were fired upon who tried to flee. As per British Indian document, 379 were identified dead, 1100 were wounded. The Congress would say 1500 and 1000 killed, but we are sure that 1650 rounds were fired by the British on that day. The precise firing will in turn lead to a lot of chaos, and that will in turn lead to stampede. Martial law was proclaimed in Punjab the next day, and public flogging, torture, humiliation was perpetuated. People were asked to crawl on their bellies on the road on which the missionary had been assaulted. Rabindranath Tagore, revolted by this, is going to give up his knighthood. Gandhi, his Kesar-e-Hind title itself. And Gandhi, overwhelmed with this violence, is going to withdraw the movement on April 18th, 1919. Later, the Hunter Commission will be established. Hunter Commission basically will be Secretary of State Edwin Montagu's order to inquire into what had happened. There will be different members, but 3 Indians were there. You have Sir Chinmanlal Harilal Selvat, Pandit Jagat Narayan, and Sardar Shehzad Sultan Ahmad Khan. They condemned Dyer's actions, but the basic commission was an eyewash. In fact, in the House of Lords, people endorsed Dyer's action, and the British people even showed solidarity to Dyer by getting close to 3,000 pounds for his loss of job. Hunter Commission did not impose any penalty or disciplinary action, but just asked him to leave his job. Now, the Congress will also appoint their own committee, the non-official committee. Now, you have to remember this for sure. Remember this, please. Motilal Nehru, C.R. Das, Abbas Taibji, M.R. Jaikar, and Gandhi were the member of this committee. They will call the Dyer's action as inhumane, and there was no justification for what he had already done. However, the final justice in this is going to be on 13th March 1940 at the Carlston Hall in London. Udham Singh, who witnessed this horrific accident himself, or horrific massacre itself, will kill Michael O'Dwyer, the British Lieutenant Governor, who was there at the time of the massacre. Though Dyer had already died because of his general illness, Udham Singh, whilst shooting, bore the name Ram Mohammad Singh Azad in order to say that he identified or represented unified India. Dyer had already died in 1927, unfortunately. On 31st July 1940, Udham Singh will be hanged by the British. In 1952, Jawaharlal Nehru will give him the honorary title, the much deserved title of Shaheed Udham Singh, and therefore this completes a story of Rowlatt Act. O'Dwyer and Dyer are different. O'Dwyer is the Lieutenant Governor, Dyer is the General. Done, everyone? Then can we go to non-cooperation? Okay. Now, when we talk about non-cooperation movement is linked to the other part of the story. And the other part of the story actually is the concept of First World War. Now, I already told you about the First World War, but I repeat myself, which is that First World War was fought between the British, French, the Russians, Americans, even Italian on this side, versus Germany, Ottoman Empire, and Austria. Now, in our story, what is more important is Ottoman Empire. See, with Germany and Austria, the worst treaty of the world, which is called the Treaty of Versailles, was signed, or Versailles was signed. However, against the Ottomans, there was, and basically they won, obviously, they won. So the losers, Germany and Austria, signed the Treaty of Versailles. However, on the other hand, the Ottoman Empire signed something in 1920, which is called the Treaty of Sevres. It's a separate treaty altogether. But why is the Ottoman Empire important for us? The Ottoman Empire is important for us because the Ottoman king is technically called a Khalifa. The king of the Ottoman Empire. And we'll discuss this in world history when we will discuss the concept of Eastern Question and Great Eastern Crisis, Crimean War and all. And he is technically called the Khalifa. Now, who is a Khalifa? Khalifa is the political and religious leader of all Muslims across the world. Across the world. Basically, he represents the religious leadership of all Muslims across the world. So, Khalifa and the concept of political religious leadership would mean that if something happens to the Khalifa, it is a disgrace and it is something which every Muslim across the world will take offense to. And that is why as soon as the war was over, now it was up to the British to decide what to do with the Khalifa. And the basic argument at this point of time was that Ottoman Empire would be destroyed or dismembered or disintegrated, and the Khalifa would be removed from his position. And this in turn is going to become the starting point of a movement across the world, but in India embodied by two brothers, Shaukat and Muhammad Ali, also known as the Ali brothers, as the Khilafat movement. Khilafat movement. Khilafat, the word Khalifa gives you Khilafat. And the Khilafat movement was against the British, And it was to basically protect the Khalifa. They said that the Khalifa should not be disrespected, his area should not be reduced, he should be, in a way, be part of the larger Islamic world as he is right now. But the British had other plans for that. So the All India Khilafat movement is going to start. And their basic agenda and the basic point was what is called boycott of the British. But one person is going to get associated with this All India Khilafat movement. And he will also be one of the the first president of the All India Khilafat movement. And his name is Gandhi. Gandhi actually got closely associated with the Khilafat movement because after the Jallianwala Bagh and after what had happened in Punjab, Gandhi saw what the British were doing via the separate electorate concept. So he could see that basically Hindus and Muslims are now being divided by the British. They are following a divide and rule policy. So now Gandhi wanted to use a movement to bring these two communities together. And according to him, the Khilafat movement is something which was a very good opportunity for the INC to endorse the Khilafat movement and also take everything forward. Because something had to be done after the Rowlatt Act had not been repealed itself, but more than that, the Jallianwala Bagh incident had happened. So what Gandhi was trying to do, that he will create an agenda. And the agenda will be that he said, the Khilafat issue plus the Punjab wrongs, which is nothing but Jallianwala Bagh, he wanted to bring everybody together under this whole concept of Khilafat plus a movement in which the INC could also get linked up. So that is why he was trying to club these two issues, Punjab wrongs, Jallianwala Bagh, plus Khilafat issue, which impacts all Muslims. So the Sikh community, the Hindu community, the Muslim community, all can come together in a larger movement. And this is the first and the last attempt of Gandhi to actively try to use a movement to bring all communities together, specifically Hindus and Muslims. But the problem in this whole configuration is that what he was proposing was called the non-cooperation movement. What he was proposing was called the non-cooperation movement. It was going to take the same Khilafat methodology, but a step further. And the concept was that what we will do is that we will give up our, again, boycott schools, boycott colleges, and boycott the government service. But what he also wanted to do was, he said that Indian members in the provincial and imperial legislative councils, along with the council of state members, all members who are Indian in the imperial government should give up their position and resign. Should resign. And the INC leaders at this point of time were one of the most important people in these positions. So there will be two major roadblocks to the non-cooperation. First is that people like C.R. Das, Motilal Nehru were very reluctant to give up their positions which they had to technically get nominated to. So there's an inertia, there's a type of reluctance that why do I need to give up this position in the imperial or provincial legislative council? Everybody likes their job. But the more ardent and more important opposition will come from Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Tilak very categorically said that the INC should not absorb the Khilafat movement because the INC is not a religious body and the Khilafat issue is a religious issue. At the end of the day, it is linked to the Muslims, and Muslim Khilafat concept is political religious leader. Khilafat may be about protecting the Khalifa, but the Khalifa is not a political issue but a religious issue. And basically between 1920 January to 1st August 1920, Tilak's disagreement with how the Congress should go forward and how basically there is a reluctance within the INC to give up its positions. will mean that there will be constant pressure from Gandhi on the INC. Take it, take it, take it. Let us launch non-cooperation. Let us launch non-cooperation. But basically, till Tilak is alive, that was not possible. And that is why, as soon as Tilak will die, he will basically have a natural that he will take his last breath on 1st August 1920. The INC will go ahead with the non-cooperation movement on 31st August 1920. It will informally say that the non-cooperation movement is a go, and there will be a special session which will happen in September, because all sessions happen in December. But a special session will happen in Calcutta in September of 1920 to endorse the Khilafat program. But the most important change happens in the December of 1920 session, which is called the Nagpur session. Nagpur session basically will be used by the Congress to launch the non-cooperation movement. However, they will also change the structure of the Congress. And the Congress for the first time will reduce its membership fee to 1 anna. But more than that, they will create a structure which to some level exists till today, which is the 3-tiered structure of execution or political power within the INC, which is called the Congress Working Committee, the concept of Central Congress Working Committee, which acts at the INC level, the CWC. Then it coordinates with the provincial working committees, and thereafter it goes to the ward working committees. And this is the concept of the CWC, the PWC, and the WCW, WWC, which is the 3-tiered structure of the Congress, which is going to become the backbone of the national movement. Whilst the INC could actually send the message to the ward level very quickly, was because of this Nagpur session change. So the Khilafat issue, though a religious issue with regards to how it was linked to the Treaty of Sevres and the Ottoman Empire, Gandhi used it as a moment of cooperation between Hindus and Muslims. And that is why the NCM was one of the largest movements in which there was proper Indian, or what we call as Hindu-Muslim unity. The Muslim League endorsed the INC, the plan under Lucknow Pact. They were already with the INC, but this whole movement is going to be a success. And the concept was that we will resign, we will give up, we will boycott, we will do this, we will do that. But there was a clause that as soon as the NCM is going to reach a certain point, we will go for phase 2, which is civil disobedience, and then we will get Swaraj within 2 years. The basic point was, Gandhi promised that if we can create the pressure in the right way, we can get self-rule, we can get independence in a certain way within 2 years. But with regards to the non-cooperation movement, what is actually going to happen is, this movement will start to overheat. Everybody is following me till this point? I'm going to go through the PPT with regards to this, but I'm trying to give you a larger overview here. What is going to happen is that the movement will start to overheat. It will start to technically lose its fizz. People will start to become more and more frustrated. And in 1922, February 1922, because Swaraj was not coming only, Gandhi said that Swaraj will come in 2 years. 2 years happened, no Swaraj. British did not listen only. Everybody gave up their job. Everybody were now sitting. You will boycott till a point. So people were getting frustrated. This is called a movement overheating. People were losing faith. So in 1922, what happened was that in a small city of Chauri Chaura, United Province, there will be a small gathering of 26 policemen, 26 to 29 policemen trying to manage a crowd in Chauri Chaura, and the police will shoot on the people and one person will get shot. But now the people actually lost their mind and had this frustration building up. They will instantly revolt and the police will retreat back to their police station. And what the people will do is that as soon as they will go back to the police station, they will lock the gates, and with 26 policemen inside, they will burn the building. They will burn the building. And this is called the Chauri Chaura incident. In Chauri Chaura, angered mob is going to burn 26 policemen. These are all European, all European. And as soon as Chauri Chaura will happen, Gandhi will withdraw the movement next day. He will say that I said that violence was not acceptable, but Gandhi was now taking a truce. There were two reasons why Gandhi will withdraw the non-cooperation in 1922 after Chauri Chaura. Everybody will hue and cry. Even Nehru, Patel, even Subhash Chandra Bose, all will say that what was the point of withdrawing it? It was just an angry crowd. It was not in Delhi, Madras or Chennai. It was just a small incident. Why are you withdrawing this movement on the basis of just one small incident? But Gandhi was doing two things at the same point of time. First is that he knew that the movement was not going anywhere. He knew non-cooperation is more or less dead because the concept of Swaraj was not coming, and the CDM technically, the second stage was never going to happen. So he saw this is his struggle, true struggle. This was him taking a truce. But the other reason which Gandhi always quotes and is actually not talked about quite a lot is the fact that he wanted to prevent another, very good, Yashika. He wanted to prevent another Jallianwala Bagh. He knew that if I don't withdraw this movement, the repression of the British is going to be extremely brutal and multiple Jallianwala Baghs are going to happen. So in order to show that the British Indian people had done wrong, he withdraw the NCM and he will also be arrested the same day. He will be arrested under the charges of sedition, that he was doing seditious activities, and he will be arrested also. So he will not resist his arrest. He will get arrested. Gandhi will get arrested as soon as Chauri Chaura was. Next day he will withdraw it. He will get arrested. Simple point is, people tend to talk about Gandhi being that moment of cowardice, or he was a coward who did not want to take the non-cooperation movement forward. Everybody with him also believed the same, that Gandhi should not have taken back the movement. But the basic point is, he knew that the non-cooperation movement was not going anywhere. Was actually not going anywhere. This was his concept of truce. And second, he wanted to avoid repression. He knew that the British will respond with utmost level of repression, rather take back the movement and distract their attention itself. This point needs to be very, very clear in your mind, that Chauri Chaura is his truce. He knew can't go forward here on. If you understand this basic story, then I'll go into the nitty-gritty, tell you what to learn. Yes? Great. Perfect. Okay. Khilafat later automatically will fizz out. I will talk to you about that, because Khilafat itself will fizz out, because There will be a revolution in Ottoman Empire. Kamal Pasha is going to take power and it will become a secular state. So basically, Khilafat concept is going to be destroyed from within itself. From within itself. Okay. Lahore session means Lahore session 1929. We are 1919 right now. Okay. Government of India Act 1919. Ill-conceived scheme of triarchy was not working. Self-government itself was only a drama. Jallianwala Bagh massacre had already happened. Inquiry thereafter was just an eyewash. If that was not enough, economic hardship, inflation and unemployment, all because of the First World War. All because of the First World War. And basically, nothing really had changed. Jallianwala Bagh shook the nation, but really nothing really changed. The British were the British and they were doing what they needed to do. And people of India were under distress for sure. Now we know that in the political scene, the Lucknow Pact had already happened, but a major change had also come within the Muslim nationalism. Basically, the Aligarh school will be taken out, which was very conservative, very loyalist to the British. But now the Muslim community could see that loyalism to the British was also not working. So there will be a rise of a radical nationalist Muslim group under Muhammad Ali, Shaukat Ali's brother, Azad, Hakim Ajmal Khan, and Hassan Imam. And basically, they will now come out of that conservative concept. Their nationalism was coming out of their moderate phase, going into the extremist phase. And they had strong anti-imperialist sentiment, anti-imperialistic sentiment. And in all this background, the Khilafat concept is that it is an institution or an office which was there of the Khalifa of Turkey, and he was regarded as a spiritual and political head of the Muslim world. And because Turkey had allied with Germany, Ottoman Empire, as it says, Ottomans, they were now going to face the wrath of the British. The victory of the Allied forces, therefore, was going to impose a humiliating treaty, which they already did on Germany, Treaty of Versailles, but the same plan for Turkey. And now Turkey was going to get, or Ottoman Empire is going to get dismembered. Khalifa was going to be removed from his power. Therefore, now what is called the Khilafat Committee will be established by, now please, this is extremely important for your prelims examination. These things come in the exam, which is the Ali brothers, Shaukat Ali and Muhammad Ali Johar, or Muhammad Ali itself, are going to become the two major people who will spearhead this movement. What was their demands? Their demands were very simple. Khalifa must retain all his power with regards to Muslim sacred places. The Khilafat must be left with sufficient territory to defend itself. The Zerat ul Arab, which is Arabia, Syria, Iraq, Palestine, for all which is Muslim sovereignty and Khalifa's major terrain, should be retained. Don't have to learn this though. And Azad Ajmal Khan and Hasrat Mohani are going to become very, very important. So the basic point is they all are on the same page with regards to what they want, which is no disrespect to the Khalifa. So in November of 1919, an all India Khilafat conference will be held in Delhi for the boycott of British goods. So they're going the route of Rowlatt and Swadeshi. The Khalifat or Khilafat leaders were very clearly spelled out. A peace terms with Turkey should not be about disrespecting the Khalifa and should be favorable to Turkey, or all forms of cooperation will go away from the government. But what is interesting is Gandhi was sitting there as the president of the All India Khilafat Conference. And now he saw this as an opportunity to bring the masses together and launch a non-cooperation movement. Now, when it comes to the Congress stand, till this point, anybody has any issues? Basically, you understand the Khilafat issue, you understand Khilafat committee, you understand Gandhi's perspective. Because once we're done with this, we'll talk about Swarajist and no changes also. Okay. So, the Congress support for the Khilafat movement had two major obstacles. Tilak was opposed to an alliance with Muslim leaders over a religious issue. And he said that I don't believe that Satyagraha really works. And he'd already seen how the Rowlatt Satyagraha had actually worked out. And thereafter, the other clause was boycott of councils. Provincial Legislative Council, Imperial Legislative Council. And people like C.R. Das were not willing, and technically they were not that happy to give up their position. And they wanted their leaders to boycott the elections in November of 1920. But the majority of the voters stayed away, and the Congress still performed in that election. Gandhi, however, was pushing this issue. He needed to get an approval for this issue, but till Tilak is going to be alive, nothing is going to happen. Muslim League was also supporting the Congress over this issue generally, Khilafat issue. And now in February of 1920, a joint Indian, or what we call as Hindu-Muslim delegation, will go to the Viceroy to talk about the Khilafat issue, but again will fail. And then Gandhi will do the master stroke. The master stroke is that he will link up the Khilafat issue with the issues of Punjab or the Punjab wrongs. He will say that the Punjab wrongs, the constitutional development and Khilafat are technically together. And basically, he announced that the issue of Punjab wrongs, constitutional advance, had been overshadowed by the Khilafat question, and that this non-cooperation movement should be a movement of everybody together if the terms of the peace treaty fail to satisfy Indian Muslims. So basically, he's talking about a threat that if the Indian Muslims are not happy with the Treaty of Sevres, then we will go for an all India non-cooperation movement. Still, however, there is no formal sanction from the INC. INC is still not behind Gandhi. Now, in May, the Treaty of Sevres will be signed, and what will be decided is Ottoman Empire will be disintegrated, which is called dismemberment. And in June, all party conference will happen in Allahabad to approve a program for boycott of schools, colleges, courts, and Gandhi was asked to lead it. However, as soon as Tilak will die on 1st August, the Khilafat committee started a campaign of non-cooperation, and the movement will start formally. And in September of 1920, in the special Calcutta session, the non-cooperation program will now be endorsed, linking the Punjab wrongs and Khilafat together. Now Gandhi had succeeded in doing what he was trying to do for the past 6 to 7 months, which is bring Hindus and Muslims together in one major movement. Now, what is the program? Till this point, you understand the struggle for Gandhi to push this agenda? Yes? You understand that also? Now, basically, what is the program? The program is not something new, but what was new was that it was going to happen at an all India level. It was going to happen at an all India level, which is that boycott of schools and colleges, boycott of law courts and dispensation of justice through panchayats. But this is what the INC did not like initially, and please hold on to this information, which is that the boycott of legislative councils is something which was within this whole program. They also said boycott of foreign cloth, khadi was going to be now used instead, practice of hand spinning, renunciation of government honors and titles. And what Gandhi said was that as soon as the non-cooperation movement reaches a certain point, we will go for mass civil disobedience with resignation of government service and non-payment of taxes. And during this period, Hindu and Muslim unity and removal of untouchability was the major feature. He said, let us link one more issue, which is a caste issue of untouchability towards the depressed classes. So Gandhi, what he's trying to do is it's the boycott of all councils, all councils. So the basic point is Gandhi was trying to reinvigorate the whole national movement again. But the problem again is once Nagpur session will endorse it, this movement will not go really anywhere after 1 year. So the program will be endorsed, but however, Congress itself will change. For the attainment of self-government through constitutional meal, the constitutional means was the attainment of Swaraj as a goal. They will abandon it, and now the Congress will shake off its moderate mentality or moderate framework and say how we will get Swaraj is through peaceful, legitimate, extra constitutional mass struggle. A very important concept, because till this point everything was about moderate politics and moderate mentality or moderate concept itself. Now it is not that. It is that we will go for extra constitutional, beyond the concept of constitutional protest. Prayer, petition and protest are gone, and mass struggle is going to be our way of getting independence. However, there is also a change within the INC. Congress Working Committee will be formed with 15 members. Provincial Congress committees will be formed, or provincial working committees will be formed to organize everything at the province level. And then ward committee will be formed, and the entry fees was reduced to 4 annas, and in some places 1 anna, but 4 anna on an average. The basic point was now formally the non-cooperation movement will be adopted. So remember, I'm again repeating the Nagpur session, important for you. Nagpur session, there is 3 basic changes. First, in the larger mentality and methodology of the INC to extra constitutional movement. Second is the fact that they will have structural changes, Central Working Committee or Central Congress Working Committee, then provincial Congress committees or provincial working committees, and then ward committees to basically coordinate everything which the INC was doing. 4 annas on an average from close to 1 rupee. The basic previous uh, membership fee was 1 rupee, which was quite a lot at that point of time. It would be made 4 annas. And Nagpur will make what technically INC is going to be in the next section. Because if you have to understand Gandhi and Bose, you need to understand this basic change, which is Congress Working Committee and the concept of this 15 members now being the mastermind behind the Indian national movement. So Nagpur session is clear, basic understanding. Then I go to the other aspects. Nagpur session. Clear? Very good. Now, do not have to learn this. But what I'm showing you right now are the don't have to learn the first 15 members. Don't have so much unnecessary time to learn that also. Now, obviously, don't have to learn all of this, but what this shows is spread. Shows the spread of the movement. And I'll tell you what to learn and what not to learn in this, but I'll read it out to you generally. I hope you're understanding the basic purpose here. Calcutta session was to informally endorse. Nagpur session was to formally endorse. The larger NCM program you already understand. The nitty-gritties don't really matter here. Because in an NCM question, which I'm going to give you after this topic, you will realize that there's no real scope to write anything. Because if you will write the basic features of the non-cooperation, that will automatically become 250 words, 150 words. So basic point of the matter is informal endorsement in Calcutta session. Nagpur session, 3 major changes. Methodology becomes extra constitutional. Second, the concept of what we call as the Congress Working Committee will come into existence, and the CWC, PWC and the ward committee, the 3-tier structure is going to be created. Are we all on the same page? Do we understand the purpose of this discussion? Because this much detail you cannot actually process or even write. That is the basic point I'm trying to make here. So you have to just simply be straightforward. In a way, what you are going to write is this. This is much more important. This is more important for you than that. Because what is the basic program of the INs, of this non-cooperation movement? Okay. Different leaders, for example, Annie Besant, Jinnah Kapadre, Bipin Chandra Pal will also leave the Congress thinking that now the Congress is not what it was. SN Banerjee is going to find the Indian National Liberal Federation. Thereafter, he will go henceforth in this basic concept. Gandhi declared that if the non-cooperation program was implemented, now listen to me, implemented completely, Swaraj would be ushered within a year. This is the promise which Gandhi made, and that is the problem. Many groups of revolutionaries from Bengal also pledged support to the Congress program. Gandhi now started to tour the whole Indian sector with the Ali brothers. Students left government colleges, schools, joined national schools and colleges. English educational institutions were boycotted. New education institutions were developing under Acharya Narendra Dev, C.R. Das, Lala Lajpat Rai, Zakir Hussain. But for the purpose of the examination, this is very important. S.C. Bose means Subhash Chandra Bose. Subhash Chandra Bose is going to now rise in the politics, and he will become the principal of the National College at Calcutta. And this was him coming up in the ranks of the nationalist politics and coming to the foray. So now Subhash Chandra Bose is going to rise. English cloth was boycotted. Foreign cloth was burnt. Imports fell by half, which is a very big amount. Khadi was promoted. Khadi and charkha now became a symbol of national unity. Picketing and selling of liquor, toddy shops were undertaken. Toddy is what is called local beer, if you want to say. Lawyers such as Motilal Nehru, Jawaharlal Nehru, C.R. Das, Saifuddin Kichlev, Vallabhbhai Patel, Asaf Ali, and all of them will leave practice. Even Rajendra Prasad. Social boycott will also happen of the British. Tilak Swaraj Fund will be oversubscribed. This 1 crore rupees was collected in order to then basically fund the NCM. And Congress Volunteer Corps will emerge as parallel police. By July of 1921, Ali brothers gave a call for the Muslims to even resign from the army as it was unreligious, and they will themselves get arrested in September. Gandhi echoed their call and asked the Congress committees to pass similar resolutions to effect. Oversubscribed means people expected maximum 10 lakh, 15 lakh. 1 crore was actually taken. Now the Congress gave a call to the local Congress bodies to start civil disobedience if you think people were ready. However, now Gandhi could see the lukewarm response, which is that when the second stage was coming through, it was not that heavy. It was not that heavy. So the movement slowly but surely was starting to overheat. So no tax campaign already in Midnapur and Guntur district. In Assam, there were strikes which were happening in the railways, in the tea plantations, and J.M. Sen Gupta had become a prominent leader in these strikes. When Prince of Wales had come to India in 1921 November, his carcade will be hounded by people. Demonstrations will happen, strikes will happen. Even Awadh Kisan movement, Ekab movement, Mapila movement, Sikh agitation, basically peasant movement will also start to come through. And the British will try to divide Ali brothers and Gandhi, because reading will say to Gandhi that what Ali brothers are doing is that they're enticing violence. So why don't you condemn their actions and condemn their speeches? But Gandhi said that I don't know what you are saying, and Gandhi will still stand by the Khilafat leaders. Basic point of the matter is the movement till 1921 looked like a success. Can you understand why you can't write all of this in the examination? There is too much detail here. It is to tell you a story. That story is to tell you the story of the non-cooperation movement, but there is no scope to even write any of this. This is close to 1,000 words, 1,000, 1,200 words. You have to simply understand the larger context of the movement, which is linked to the concept of what we call as the non-cooperation, different forms. Everywhere it is happening in a different way. People are trying to do what they're trying to do. Are we all on the same page? Yes? Because I've already given you the larger picture. What matters is I've already given you the story itself. I've already given you the story. Okay. Now. Sorry, Chora. A mob of peasants and Khilafat agitators will burn 22, somewhere it will say 22, 26, 29. Three different data is there. You go with 22, Bipin Chandra data. And they will burn 22 policemen alive after the policemen ordered Lathi charge on 5th February 1922. Again, you will find two dates in different books, 4th and 5th. Basically, 5th is considered the more consensus one, but 4th you will also find in a lot of the concepts. The prelims does not ask this type of facts. I will tell you that. I will show you the questions tomorrow. We do previous year questions tomorrow. Non-cooperation, there has been no direct question till this point. No direct question. They've not even asked a question out of Rowlett. What they're asking is the larger implications of these movements. So you will see UPSC is not getting caught up in these things. Congress will plan a no tax movement, and the second phase was planned for 12th February at Bardoli. However, Gandhi will call off the movement. Most of the people will become disillusioned, and people will say that this movement should not have been stopped because of one incident itself. C.R. Das, Nehru, Bose, and both Motilal and Jawaharlal Nehru will express bewilderment. C.R. Das and Motilal Nehru will protest this action itself. And even Subhash Chandra Bose will say that this is a national calamity that this movement has been stopped. Jawaharlal Nehru also felt that the movement should not have stopped because of some poor peasants trying to respond to this larger concept. Now, this is basically the non-cooperation. Now, you tell me one thing before I go to the understanding of Swaraj is no changes. I give you a time to breathe here. We started our story with Montague Chelmsford. I hope Montague Chelmsford is not an issue. Right? That is not an issue. You understand hierarchy, you understand jurisdictional understanding, you understand the structural changes. Just to revise very quickly with you, the basic point was what? There will be Secretary of State plus High Commissioner in Europe or in England, then Governor General of India, and now he has the bicameral legislation, the concept of Central Legislative Council and Council of States plus the Executive Council. And at the level of the governor, there will be governor, but now governor will also have Legislative Council and Executive Council. And this way it is divided transferred subjects. This way it is divided as reserved subjects. This is called hierarchy. This is called bicameralism, new office added, and jurisdictional difference in subjects. Yes? Yes. I hope this basic concept is there. I'll show you the timeline again so that we can now revise through the timeline also. I'm trying to revise with you. Because, yeah. And then we did these two timelines parallelly. First, how the Rowlett Act is basically the extension of the Defense of India Act. Once the Defense of India Act is basically in your perspective, Rowlett Act was the permanent extension of the Defense of India Act. 6th April is going to be the Hartal Day. However, the real story happens in Amritsar. 9th, two leaders will be picked up. 10th, proper level of violence. 13th, the revenge of the British, Jallianwala Bagh. And thereafter, 18th April, Gandhi is going to withdraw the movement itself. August and September, Montague Chelmsford reforms will come as a lollipop, as the carrot which the people were expected to accept. However, parallel to this, as soon as the Montague Chelmsford reforms comes through, the Treaty of Sevres now becomes an issue, which is the Khilafat issue. And this is what you need to remember. If you can remember this basic fact, that Khilafat issue was linked to the Khalifa of Ottoman Empire, and Khilafat issue was about disrespecting the Muslim leader. And Gandhi wanted to link the Khilafat issue with the Punjab wrongs to launch an all India level movement. Then you understand the reason for Khilafat and NCM. NCM itself is not a movement which is independent to the Khilafat. Both go together. First, Tilak is the problem. He is not going to allow this movement to go forward. And the problem of resistance within, because boycott of council comes through. Thereafter, as soon as he's dead, there will be the Treaty of Severance which will going to happen. That in turn will lead to a lot of hue and cry. Calcutta session, formal and what is called informal endorsement. Nagpur session, formal endorsement. Movement will go on, take a lot of forms, Assam, this, that. But in 1922, 5th February 1922, Chauri Chaura is going to happen, and Gandhi will see that now violence has happened, government repression can come through. So in order to avoid a Jallianwala Bagh and take a truce, he withdraws the movement. Is this clear? Right? Okay. Now, I'm not going to show you a slide or anything. I want you to understand something. Simple point. See, please understand, I'm giving you a pathway to what we are going to do now, because there's a way we go forward now. Tomorrow, what we do, you want a mains question? I'll give you a mains question. Why not? You want a mains question? Okay. I'll give you two questions. One from Rowlett, and one from the non-cooperation movement. When we talk about Rowlett, something like this can come, which is that the Rowlett Satyagraha was we can say was a watershed movement, or rather watershed moment in Indian nationalism as a new form of national expression was seen. Discuss the importance of the movement. And basically, you have to talk about mass nationalism, Gandhi's role, and the way Jallianwala Bagh itself, which is a product of the Rowlett Satyagraha, also exposed the British. So this is the type of movement question which comes. They will not say, tell us how the Rowlett movement happened or the Rowlett Satyagraha happened. No, that is not the type of question comes. Same way, the non-cooperation movement was an attempt of Gandhi to make Indian nationalism truly pan-Indian and transcend religion. Comment. Now, this is technically again not about the movement. You talk about the national, you talk about the programs, 150 words, 250 words. You talk about the program, but the basic point of the matter is that it's about what it meant. Are you getting my point? Prelims, there are no questions itself. I will show you that tomorrow. But in mains, the movement is the concept of how that movement impacts everything in the larger context. In the larger context. So both movements are very important in the nationalistic history. Why? Because Rowlatt is the first mass nationalism. First time Gandhi launched himself into the public sphere properly. First time Satyagraha was used at the all India level. Hartal was all India. Program was all India. And basically there was a lot of response from everybody because Gandhi had truly integrated the peasant and the worker into the story. And the second question, technically, you need to talk about how Gandhi transcended religion, which is to link Khilafat with Punjab wrongs, and making it truly pan-Indian in the sense means that the non-cooperation program was followed in all parts of India, and you can talk about the program getting implemented in certain areas itself. So there's no set answer to this question. There's no set answer to these questions. It's about how you perceive them. But I hope you can now understand that the questions don't revolve around facts. The questions don't revolve around facts, but there are certain personalities you have to obviously remember. For example, you obviously cannot forget Gandhi. Conceptual understanding is important. That is the basic point. You can't forget Gandhi, Motilal Nehru, Jawaharlal Nehru, Subhash Chandra Bose, Ali brothers, Shaukat and Muhammad Ali, the O'Dwyer, Dyer, Udham Singh. These are names which you need to know. But it's not a hard and fast rule that they will say that you give us the exact name. Saifuddin Kichli, Dr. Satyapal. Are you understanding this? Am I asking you to learn each and every data? Patel, Tilak, these are personalities we are discussing constantly. So I hope it is a reasonable request that you, as we go on in this story, we keep on doing these names again and again. Now, if you cannot learn Subhash Chandra Bose's name or Jawaharlal Nehru's name or Gandhi's name, then there's a problem. Everywhere I have marked categorically what you need to remember. So, one thing very clearly, if you will sit with any book, these are heavy areas. Steer clear of the data, just understand the significance of the movement. Yes, no. Lahore conspiracy case is nothing but the Gadar movement. Yes. Simple point is keep it as simplistic and straightforward as possible. Watershed moment means that it is a major tipping point. Now, simply 2 minutes I will take from you and then I will leave you. Now, Indian nationalism will become disillusioned. So what we do tomorrow is Swarajist no changers, the whole concept of how INC will go forward. We will also talk about Simon Commission, and we will also talk about revolutionary activities part 2, which is HRA, HSRA. August Declaration different. August offer is 1940. So we will discuss HRA, HSRA, and we'll do previous year questions. But one very important discussion I'm going to have with you tomorrow is with regards to Bhagat Singh and his conception of what we call as nationalism. But even more important is how the Lahore conspiracy case, first Saunders murder and the central legislative bombing, what was the real story behind it. I will get a very interesting and important book. It's by A.G. Nurani. It's called The Trial of Bhagat Singh. It's on the Lahore conspiracy case itself. I will bring the book here and I will tell you an alternative perspective and a whole new part or story to Bhagat Singh, which books don't talk about, which be it NCRT, be it Bipin Chandra, be it any standard book. It's a very specialized book, but again, a very interesting book, which talks about how the Lahore conspiracy case trial happened and what Bhagat Singh actually represented and the way the British actually went after him. Tomorrow, we will reach 1929. And once we reach 1929, we will go on and discuss about on Monday the CDM, Gandhi Irwin Pact, and we'll reach till 1940. Once we reach 1940, 7 years more and we get independence. So we are now basically coming to the last 15-20 years. Done, everyone? So if you don't have a question and you want to go to the webinar, thank you so much. I hope everything we discussed today made sense to you. Yes, there are this is what we are going to do. This is the basic discussion we have. There were certain concepts here, certain facts. Steer clear of the facts itself. Right? Thank you so much. Take care. I'll see you tomorrow at the same time. Don't have to worry about facts. Just keep it simple. Okay.